Location and background. Korea is located at East Asia, also known as the land of the morning calm. Korea consists of a peninsula and nearby islands located in East Asia. The peninsula extends southward for about 1,100 kilometers from continental Asia into the Pacific Ocean, and surrounded by the Sea of Japan to the east and Yellow Sea to the west. Korea Strait connecting two bodies of water. To the northwest, Amok River separates Korea from China, and to the northeast, the Numan River separates Korea from China and Russia. Since 1945, it has been divided into two parts and soon became the two sovereign states. First is the South Korea, which is officially known as Republic of Korea, having 51 million of its total population and Seoul as the capital and the largest city, being home of the Korean pop songs and singers such as BTS and Blackpink, which is known worldwide, also Korean series and movies. South Korea is also known for their products like Samsung and cosmetic products popularized by Korean stars, actors, and actresses. The other sovereign state is the North Korea, which is also known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It has 25 million of total population and Pyongyang is considered as the capital. Korean descent and small communities of ethnic Chinese and Japanese are also found in the country. North Korea has maintained one of the most closed but centralized economy in the world since 1940s. For several decades, it followed the Soviet pattern of 5-year plans with the ultimate goal of achieving self-sufficiency. The type of life that North Koreans have is very limited as they were controlled by the military government and their president.
What comes to mind when you think of hanbok traditional Korean clothes? Graceful, elegant, rich and curved beauty are all words that express the unique beauty and characteristics of hanbok. The reason why hanbok is so special is because it goes beyond physical beauty and embodies Korean history, culture, etiquette, and spirit. Look in Korean clothes, hanbok basically comprises joggery, which is uniform for men and women, a chima for women, and baji for men. Unlike suits, made to fit the body, hanbok is a garment that expresses the richness and the softness of the clothes on the body. Hanbok also exhibit textiles, embroidery, gold patterns and colors that demonstrate richness and honor, the prosperity of the offspring, good health, and long life.
Language Hangul.
Korean is a language isolate, although some linguists have posed that Korean is in the Alphaic language group and is thus related to the languages like Turkish and Finnish. This theory have been largely discredited. Instead, Korean is more commonly classified as a language isolate, which means it shows no significant link to any other existing language on Earth. Its vocabulary is heavily influenced by Chinese. Korean is a language isolate and has a completely different grammar from Chinese. But due to the historical connection between the Chinese and Koreans, up to 60% of Korean words are of Chinese origin, and about 35% are purely Korean, while the 5% are loanwords from various other languages.
Korean cuisine. Korean cuisine is the customary cooking traditions and practices of the culinary arts of Korea. Korean cuisine has evolved through centuries of social and political change, originating from ancient agriculture and nomadic traditions in Korea and southern Manchuria. Korean cuisine has evolved through a complex interaction of the natural environment and different cultural trends. Korean cuisine is largely based on rice, vegetables, and meats. Traditional Korean meals are named for the number of side dishes that accompany steamed cooked short grain rice. Kimchi is served at nearly every meal. Commonly used ingredients include sesame oil, doenjang paste, soy sauce, salt, garlic, ginger, gochagaru or pepper flakes, gochujang or fermented red chili paste, and napa cabbage. Ingredients and dishes vary by province.
Sceneries.
Jeju is a semi-tropical island found just off the coast of the southernmost point of South Korea's mainland. It is the country's largest island and is also home to the country's tallest mountain, Halasan, which is ideal for hiking and taking in views of the natural surroundings. Bukchon Hanok village is actually within the city of Seoul itself, but it is a perfectly preserved village dating back 600 years to the Joseon dynasty. Features include narrow streets and traditional one-story homes with classic pagoda roofs. Today, very few people actually live in this area. Arc of Triumph, one of Pyongyang's most iconic monuments, the Arc of Triumph is larger than its Parisian predecessor at 60 meter or 197 feet high and 50 meter or 164 feet wide, built to commemorate Kim II Seung's rule in the Korean resistance to Japanese colonialism from 1925 to 1945.
Jukje Tower. Located along the banks of Taedong River, the tower is a monument dedicated to North Korea's governing political ideology of Jukje. The structure features a unique layered stone tower design topped with a torch which glows at night. Visitors can view the structure from the outside and taking an elevator to the top to enjoy the stunning view of Pyongyang. Civilization and literature. There was an actual kingdom in Korea by at least the 7th century BC known as Gojoseon. But in the 2nd century BC, the Han dynasty in China invaded Gojoseon and it broke into several smaller states. This began what's known as Three Kingdoms period, and there were three separate major kingdoms that made up Korea. These were Goryeo, Baekje, and Shilla. Each one was ruled by a king or queen, but there was a lot of fighting between these three kingdoms. Korean literature can be divided into two parts, the classical literature and modern literature. Classical literature endured until 20th century and the colonization of Korea by Japan, while modern literature began at about the beginning of 20th century. There are two poles in Korean literature. One is featuring tremendous emotions, and the second one controls both personal and social. Shamanism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism influences the Korean literature. Shamanism influences Korean emotionalism, while Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism influences the tendency to control and be controlled. Combined, these influences created an early literature expressed orally, portraying love and relationships to nature. The literature was often quite mannered, with evil deeds punished, good deeds eventually rewarded. Series of relationships structured by loyalty to the king, to parents, to elders, to friends, and to proper sexual relations, meaning chastity. There are four major traditional poetic forms in Korean literature: the yanga, or the native songs, bulguk, the special songs, changa, the long poems, and lastly, sijo and gaso, or the current melodies and verses. Other poetic forms that flourished briefly include the Gyeonggi style in 14th to 15th century and akchang, or words of song, in 15th century. Korea is the home of the first world's metal and copper type, the world's earliest known printed document, and the world's first pictorial script. Today, Korean literature is known worldwide little by little and began to be noticed.